Folks, we're back. This is Steve Sanson and Jim Jonas with another episode of Veterans in Politics. Today, our guest is going to be Denise Ashurst. She's a candidate for Assembly District number 23. It goes from Boulder City all the way to Laughlin. So if you live out in that area, you want to probably pay attention to this segment of the show. Jim, you have anything?
Well, actually, it was interesting because me and Mrs. Ashurst actually were discussing, just briefly, touching on the whole Afghanistan thing.
Yeah, that's what I wanted to bring up.
Yeah. So I'm just going to make it very simple because I'm like really upset about the whole thing, but I'm just going to make it as simple as I can. So, Steve, you've helped me a lot with look, it's a sitting president. They're not going anywhere for a while. Let's focus on local issues. And I agree with you on that. But here's where I get frustrated with what's going on in Afghanistan right now. Is because when now President Biden ran, one of the first things he said when he was campaigning is that he would overturn all of Trump's executive orders on day one, and he would not follow anything that the Trump administration did. Okay. So now, fast forward to what's going on in Afghanistan, and it's turned into, quite frankly, a mess because of the politicians, not the troops, the politicians. And so now he wants to blame it on the Trump administration because he said, oh, well, he promised that we would withdraw by September 11th, 2021. Well, but when he campaigned, didn't he say that he wasn't going to follow any of Trump's orders? But now all of a sudden, he's going to follow them and then blame Trump?
It's easy way out.
Yeah. And so I'm not going to beat too much up on President Biden. Because here's the thing. I did not vote for him. But unlike a lot of people, I respect the fact that he is my president.
Right.
He's the president of the United States. I'm a citizen of the United States, and I respect that. But it's a little frustrating to me because actually it's extremely frustrating because while I may have problems with some of the going in Iraq and different things that other administrations have done, I just feel really bad for all the people that sacrificed so much. And now it's almost like, how do you tell a widow or a widower or the children of people's fathers and mothers that died in Afghanistan?
Or crippled.
Yeah, and see what's going on right now. It's almost like all their efforts were for nothing. So for me, whether I agree with conflict or not, I have a rule. You're either pro-mission or you're not. No more of this splitting hairs where you say, well, I don't approve of the mission, but of course I support the troops. It doesn't work that way. It just does not work that way. Now, you can correct me if I'm wrong on that because you served, I didn't. But that's the way I feel. Like, you are pro-mission or you're not. And that's, like, I could go on for days, but that was the main thing I wanted to get off my chest. It's very frustrating to me.
Yeah, I would agree with all that because, when America goes into a country, especially a war-torn country, and you make allies to go after the enemy, which would be the Taliban.
Right.
A lot of people that are Afghans sacrifice their lives to help us out. So what kind of precedents are we setting for the future if we have to go into another country? They're not going to want to help us out. They're going to be like, oh, shit, you're going to be here a couple of years and you're going to turn your back on us and then our own government's going to end up killing us, which is probably what's going to happen in Afghanistan. And look at all those kids down there and the females that, the women that finally have rights to educate themselves and to vote. Well, what happens with that? Is that going to be all gone? It's like a president coming back after the Civil Rights Proclamation was formed, and another president come and overturn it. Well, what do you think would happen? Chaos and anarchy, right? So that's the same thing that's going on down in Afghanistan. I mean, when you have to throw kids across a barbed wire to get them to safety, and the parents are not coming with those kids, you know there's a problem.
Yeah. And you know, and it's a, unfortunately, like, a lot of people get frustrated with me because they're like, why are you so obsessed with history? And I mean, I could go on with the cliche, those who do not understand history are damned to repeat it, right? Well, one of the reasons why, in my opinion, we were attacked on September 11th to begin with is because of things that happened in the past. Somalia, Black Hawk Down would be a good one. As soon as it gets bloody, the Americans are pulling out. They are gone. The first Gulf War, like, I have a lot of respect for George H.W. Bush. I think he was a great man. But we didn't back the Iraqis once we left. The resistance to overturn Saddam, right? So we're doing it again in Afghanistan. So, like, if, again, to your point, if we ever go into another country again, they're like, oh, we'll just ride them out. They'll leave.
I mean, you brought up Desert Storm. We left the Sunnis.
Yep.
Who was gassed by Saddam, and the ones that was alive was helping us, and we just abandoned them. It's a problem with this country in war. We go in there, and then we end up abandoning the citizens that are actually helping us to overturn the government that we went in there to go after. You know, we shouldn't keep doing that. At least have some type of presence there, build a base. Which, and speaking of bases, what about all the equipment and the military that's going to be in the hands of the Taliban and all those? They should have. It's a waste of taxpayers' dollars, so to speak. You know, while I'm thinking about it, because I'm thinking they should destroy all that, which they should. That's proper protocols to destroy it. But look at all those tax dollars to build all those. The tanks and the Humvees and the fighter planes and all that. Those are, those are not just $5-10. Those are like millions.
You know, at one point, the Pentagon actually said it was costing the taxpayers $1 trillion a month
to stay out there,
just for Afghanistan alone, not even counting Iraq, or not trillion, billion. Sorry, yeah. But it just. I agree with that we should have civilian president being commander-in-chief, but I'll just leave it at this. Exit strategy. Like, before you get into something, you better have an exit strategy, and you damn sure should have a plan to deal with. Now, think about all the people that are coming back. TBI, PTSD,
COVID.
You know, all that stuff that goes into account.
Yeah.
But they don't ever take account of that. So.
And a sitting president have no one else to blame but himself.
Yeah. You know, and that's one thing I'll bring up real quick that I really liked about George H.W. Bush, because he was willing to criticize his son, W. He said, hey, you know, I don't think they should have did what they did. He took some bad advice, and him and Dick Cheney were really good friends, and he, pretty much befriended him, but he said ultimately at the end of the day, it's not the vice president's fault. It's the president's fault.
True.
So, anyway.
You got anything else?
No, I'm gonna get to our guest. Sorry, I apologize. I had to get that off my chest because that is very frustrating.
Well, let's talk to Denise Ashurst. Ashurst? Tell us a little bit about yourself, ma'am.
How much do you know about New York?
Okay, so it'll be a 3-hour show.
Born and raised in New York, Yonkers.
We're singing the blues.
Yeah.
How's that song go?
I don't know.
New York,
New York. Yeah. It's totally changed. But born and raised in New York, Yonkers, right outside the Bronx.
Oh, you were a little little upstate. You in the little
No,
suburban
it's not
neighborhood.
upstate. It's the sister city to the Bronx.
You know,
The end of the subway is Yonkers, right there.
That's suburban neighborhood.
It is suburban. I'll give you that.
Yonkers.
It is. Born and raised there in the projects.
They have
So-
projects out there?
They have a lot of projects out there.
Oh, wow. I didn't even know that.
Yes.
I used to have a girlfriend up there when I was like 15,
Is that right?
16.
Oh,
yeah.
there's a new one.
Up in Yonkers.
Yonkers, beautiful place. Anyway, grew up in Yonkers to my mom and dad and 2 brothers.
Okay.
And we had a really good life. I consider myself as having a charmed life. Even though you're poor as a child, you don't know your surroundings that way, and you just have a good time. And New York is a
As long as you're
beautiful
happy.
city. Happy. My dad was in the Korean War. We talked about that a little bit before we started. And he came out as a heroin addict.
Wow.
Well, back then there was a separation of the black troops and the white troops, and so a lot of them couldn't go out. They had to stay in the bases and things like that. And a lot of them came out with addictions or alcoholism. My mom from New Orleans had an 8th grade education, but the best parents that I could have been born to, because my dad spent his life in teaching me what not to do, and my brothers. We couldn't sit idly and watch TV. We had to read the newspaper every morning or look at PDF or turn the TV off and give them a book report on what we were reading. That's the life that I grew up in. My mom, because of my dad's situation, she actually ended up getting her GED and became a nurse. So this is the stock that I'm from. And this CRT stuff that they're talking about today with the critical race theory, if that was in place, my life may have went a total different way, because people would have been telling me what I needed to do because I was oppressed. I was not oppressed.
Right.
I lived a really, really, really good life. So from there, growing up in high school, I wanted to get out and see the world. My dad, having been in the military, that was one of his main things, is knowledge is power. He used to always say, get out, see the world, meet people. So I decided to graduate from high school at 17 years old, a year earlier than most
decided
people.
That all by yourself.
I just decided I'm going to leave New York and head out to California. Worst thing I could have ever done. But anyway, I went out to California and was looking at becoming
What
interior
brought you to
decorator.
California?
School, college,
Okay.
Fashion Institute of Design and Merchandising. I wanted to be interior decorator. And there was some things that had happened out there that just wasn't the lifestyle that I was raised up in.
How
So
old were you when you went up?
17.
Oh, wow.
I literally, that's what I said, I literally left high school, that didn't even spend the summer in New York, went straight to California, June, from high school right into
Who'd want to spend
college.
a summer in New York with all that humidity?
Oh, it's beautiful. That's the thing about growing up in New York, when they turn the fire hoses on and you got your jump ropes going and your music going. This is the life that I grew up in that you see in movies now.
They turn the hydrants on.
Oh, yeah, it was just,
With those little spigots.
no, it's just a hydrant.
And it
It shoots
like
out,
that,
yeah, and you're just running in and out of it, and it was just a lot of fun growing up. But still, even though New York was one of the greatest cities on this earth, the kids still want to get out and see the rest of the world, and so did I. So I went to California and did not really enjoy that lifestyle, so I went back to New York and worked with Down syndrome children for 5 years, loved it, and I wanted to become a physical therapist. And as we were talking about earlier, my uncle was in the Army, my dad was in the Army, so I wanted to go in the military and maybe go through college that way and learn to become a physical therapist. Went down to 42nd Street to Times Square and signed up.
What year was this?
Oh my gosh, 1978.
Times
I'm sorry.
Square?
Yeah, 1978, because I graduated in
42nd Street
1973.
in Times Square?
Yeah, it's still there. It's the little USO building.
That was before Koch came, Mayor Koch came and cleaned it up, so there was all peep shows going on down there.
It was a mess.
What were you
Well,
doing
actually,
down there?
Giuliani was the one who cleaned it up.
Was it Oh, yeah, that's
Giuliani.
right. It was Giuliani.
Giuliani is
It
the one who cleaned it up. Well, that was our lifestyle. That was our backyard. You know, it wasn't anything for us to get on the subway and, ride back and forth. It's a little different than today. I mean, crime and things like that was still there, but when you grow up in that element, you're part of it, and you don't have that type of fear.
Right.
So, me and my friends, we'd go shopping downtown, come back out to suburbs. So anyway, I came back, worked with Down syndrome children, and decided to go into the Army. Went down to the recruiting office, and he looked at me. I was about 85 pounds soaking wet, and he said, "Sis, you don't want to go in the Army," and I ended up going in the Air Force. So,
how was your
went
ASVAB
to,
score?
I don't even remember, but they must have been pretty good. I was in the Air Force, worked with pilots my whole 20 years pretty much.
So you retired
scheduling
out
and
of the Air
coordinating.
Force?
I retired at Nellis Air Force Base, served 5 years at Davis Monthan with
Thank
the
you
HOG.
for your service.
Thank you, you're welcome.
What was your rank?
Tech Sergeant. Retired as a Tech Sergeant. Went to Davis Monthan. Well, first Laughlin Air Force Base, basic training. Then Davis Monthan, Tucson, Arizona. Then I got to spend 10 years in the Netherlands, and I raised my children there.
Oh, wow.
Which was beautiful. And actually, that was the only thing Clinton really did that I liked.
How many kids
Remember,
did you have?
I have 2 and a stepson.
Okay.
Clinton had a big drawdown of the troops, maybe 500,000, could be 1 million if you look it up. But he had this edict, if you like where you are, you could stay there. So I ended up staying in the Netherlands for 10 years and raising my children there. And it was really, really, really a beautiful place. You talked about Dick Cheney. I got to work with him a little bit on some projects out there, and that was pretty neat. I worked with pilots pretty much my whole career, coordinating and scheduling. Started off Tucson basic, not basic training, base operations.
Right.
So that's, if you know anything about airfields at all, base operations is where the pilots come to go out. And in Davis Monthan, it was actually a little different. It was then Nellis Air Force Base. Okay. So anyway, to make a long story short, I did scheduling and coordination my whole career, right up until Nellis. I retired in 1998. From the Netherlands, I came to Nellis Air Force Base and did my last 4 years here. And then I went to work for EG&G Special Projects for 1 year. And that set me up to go to the Nevada test site. And I worked for the Department of Energy for 13 years and retired from the Department of Energy. And then I started my own ministry, working with young girls and making right choices, called Pride and Purity.
Okay. Very cool.
Yeah.
So, where do you live now?
Boulder City.
What brought you there?
So when you retire the military,
There's no gaming there. You know?
No gaming. I don't gamble. I don't smoke.
There are no masseuses there.
Yes, there are masseuses there.
There are?
Of course there are. Yes.
Really?
Yes.
It's not Steve's type of
I've never
masseuse.
seen
Yeah, maybe
them.
not your type, but there are. Yeah.
My type.
Hey, mine too.
There's no dispensaries there.
CBD dispensaries?
No.
There's not a dispensary, but there's stores that sell CBD.
THC dispensaries.
I imagine you could buy THC there too.
No.
Because
You can't mix them.
I don't know.
Well, you can, but you need a marijuana license to sell marijuana, THC, but you don't need a marijuana license to sell CBD.
Well, I guess they take a little bit of it out, but there are, I don't know if those stores in Boulder City sell the 2 products. One has the THC in it, and they're mostly in an oil form, like for aches and pains, things like that, not for smoking.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we'll get that straight. Boulder City is clean, green, and fun.
So you're running for the Assembly 23.
That's correct, yes.
What does that entail?
Well, I liken it to the Air Force Base. Air Force, pretty much every Air Force base is like a city. And there's a bank, there's bowling alleys, there's movies, there's shopping, commissary.
Right.
It's the same thing as a state or a city. So state assembly is just making legislation, making law for the state that you live in. So what I did for the Air Force is I scheduled airspace. Okay, airspace is a commodity.
Okay.
Everybody, you've heard of Red Flag, you've heard of Top Gun. Okay, they have airspace that they have to be in. So in order to schedule that airspace, somebody has to be the controlling factor. And that was my job in the military. And I liken that to state assembly. So you plan, you prepare, and then you make legislation or you hand out who gets what.
Right.
And believe me, politics in the military is the same as politics anywhere else. Yeah. If you're working for pilots, you can work for anybody, believe me. So I kind of liken it to the same, and it's different, obviously, but that same hierarchy of making decisions, planning, preparing, executing, strategy is all the same in life in general, no matter what you do. The studio, you have to plan, you prepare, you schedule a time, what we're going to do. Same thing in the state legislature. You don't sit up there the whole time like I did in the military. You come down, you are assigned committees. You get on those committees, whatever your heart is drawn to, and I'm hoping that I'll be able to get onto the committees that are more likened to what I like to do, or more that I'm geared to do, like CRT or school choice, or Boulder City. It could be water rights, gaming rights, those things that may impact my constituents in that area. But I like in the state legislature, land rights, same thing. And those are the things that I have to get up to snuff on. I mean, school, I've worked with girls since 2005 and training them of how to make right choices. It's the same thing with people. You train them how to make right choices and do the right thing. But there's some areas that I don't know, and that's gaming, mining, land, and probably economics, getting smart on that as well. But like anything else in the military, we call it OJT, on-the-job training. You are assigned to a committee or a job, and you learn it to the best of your ability, and then you execute those things that you need to put in place to make sure your constituents are taken care of, and obviously they come first.
Well, what are the boundary lines for 23?
For 23? So we were just talking about that too, because they're talking about redistricting. But right now, if you look at the boundary lines for 23, it's almost the shape of Nevada, and it just is just north of Boulder City, goes over as far as College, Horizon, right in that little area. And I have actually a printout of all the area codes, because that's really the best way to find out. Then it goes over to Boulder City. Then you come all the way south down to Laughlin. So Boulder City, primarily Boulder City to Laughlin, just a little bit over. Oh my gosh, you got Searchlight, all those little towns in there, Nelson. So those are all the little towns that I'll be stopping in that I have been through, obviously, just traveling and driving around, but want to go down and get to know the people. Same thing in Boulder City. I've been there 17 years, but there's still a lot of people in Boulder City that I don't know. And right now, what I am doing, we're a little bit further out than, the primary is not until June 14th, but I have set up like a little table at a local coffee store. And I posted on Facebook that I'm there every Tuesday. Anybody who wants to come from 9 to 10 could come down and we could talk about issues. If there's something I don't know, I'll learn. We'll get back with them the next week.
You're just doing this in Boulder?
Just in Boulder right now. Boulder is the biggest popular area that...
Laughlin's got a
Laughlin's a good size. Yeah. It's a good size as well. Yeah.
But the difference, they're not a municipality, so...
That's correct. Yeah. But it's still an area that I would have to go down and meet and greet and see what their issues are, what their concerns are.
So what motivated you to be a candidate for Assembly District 23?
I've always been a peacemaker. And I've always served in my community one way or another. And in New York, there's something unique that we had, especially in the inner cities where the poorer kids are. We used to call it a person on the block. Somebody on the street who is teaching, whether it's art, math, helping you with math after school, audio, anything that's possible. There's somebody on the block that's teaching that. And I grew up in that type of environment where, even though we were poor, there was always that outlet to learn.
Right.
And so I wanted to grow up to be that same person, somebody that the kids, the youth in my area could come to and talk to, and the adults for that matter as well. So fast forward to 2005, I started a ministry called Pride and Purity, helping women of all ages basically to make right choices. And so having done that, having been in the military, traveling the world, meeting people, like I said, it's really no different than serving my community or my state or my country, for that matter. So I think for such a time as this, my life has literally led up to this point, to where I cannot but serve. And I think everybody at this point in time, the way our country is going, needs to serve one way or another. We were talking about the Afghanistan. Well, it's not a war. It's becoming a conflict all over again. Right. But one of the things that I see there, and I had posted on Facebook, I don't know if you guys saw it, one of the kids, 19 years old, had grabbed onto the airplane, and he held on. I guess he was in the wheel well, and the plane took off, and he dropped maybe 15,000 feet or whatever. But the thing, yeah, it's all over the news right now. But the thing, the plane was almost leveling off, and they literally showed him dropping out of the aircraft.
Wow.
So that was kind of, but the thing about that, this young man feared. He was either fearful of his life living in Afghanistan, fearful of what was going to happen to him. But had he not did that, had he stayed in the airport right now, that's the only safe place really, is in the airport. You're pretty much guaranteed you're going to get on the plane, the next day or the day after. But he didn't know that because fear had gripped him. And I see that happening in our country. Fear is gripping people in a lot of different ways. When I sit down and I talk to the people of Boulder City, they're asking me, what's going on? What in the world is going on? And so serving your community in that way, being able to have an answer to give to anybody of the hope that lies within you. And I'm a Christian, and so that's my basic of life is the Bible, and everything that I live off of is from that principle. A lot of people say the Bible is rules and regulations. It's actually love and protection, and it's something to guide us into the ways that we should go. So everybody in our communities need to be serving in some type of fashion. What you guys do, I really honor this veterans in politics, because I think it may come to the point where a lot of military will be serving in our police force. We're talking about defunding the police. Well, that's not going to happen. But in those voids where the older police are leaving, maybe the military could come in, retired, obviously, because this is what we were trained for, to run a city. If you're on the military base, you can run the city. So I think if a lot of military would step up and serve in their local areas, that would be a good thing. I mean, nurses, military, dental, military, anything you could think of, the military can do. And it's not to say that, it all falls back on the military, but I think it's an open door for we who have retired and have served our country to step up and serve again.
Well, I'm glad you brought that up, because one of the things that, because my brother served in the Air Force, and I've made this statement, whether it doesn't matter what branch you served in.
Well, Air Force, of course.
But I've made this statement before, though, and I like how you were talking about how the military should get, become teachers and nurses and police officers and things of that nature. And I agree 100%. One of the things that, and I'm not the type of person that wants a bunch of extra laws. I think we have too many. But one of the things I would like to see employers, and a lot of them do, but not enough, they're like, as far as I'm concerned, once you've served in the military, that's a college degree.
Right. Oh, absolutely.
Like, whether you went to any kind of college, it doesn't matter. You served in the military, that should be considered a college degree automatically.
And that's a good way of looking at it, because for me it's 20 years, but even if you serve 4 years, you've gotten 4 years of, remember we used to have conscription, where you'd have to sign up for 2 years in the military? When I grew up, I think it ended maybe in 73, 74.
I came in 85.
Did it really?
No, I came in.
Oh, you came in 85. Okay. Well, it used to be that every American male would have to serve in the military 2 years. And I think that was a good thing. People would probably say no now, because everybody makes their own choices, obviously. But like you said, when you get in, you go to basic training, you're learning discipline, first of all, right? You're learning how to have respect for authority, because that's something that has went far off the scale.
You learn how to dress.
You learn how to dress yourself. You get up, you're responsible. The military does instill all that in a person, and that is more than a college degree. And then, what are they teaching in colleges these days? So,
Yeah.
So, let's say you become a legislator. What bills do you believe that you wanted to push?
Well, and I've been deep diving in that right now. My first thing, like I said, I worked with young women, and I'm a woman, I'm a veteran. So it has to do with school choice. to me, parental choice is more important than anything. And schooling for children, that is the backbone of America. We're talking about being in the military, how you're going to serve, college or not. How you raise a child is really important. I think that things are going the way of homeschooling, parochial schools, Catholic schools, things like that, because the public schools are failing in the sense that politics has gotten into school. I mean, we see that with the mask mandates and all that, and that's another whole story of choice. But I think that when a child is reared with the schooling that they need, that is the best investment for any country, because that's the next generation. So school choice is probably first. We have a lot of other issues that deal with women, like trafficking. Okay, that's kind of been put on the back burner because of all the Cuba issues, Afghanistan, the border, all these things have kind of pushed these other things on the back burner. But I would like to see at a state level that we deal with women that are being trafficked, especially in Las Vegas. Either Las Vegas is number 2 and Atlanta may be number 1, or vice versa. But we have a big stake in girls being bought here and being sold, or people being bought here and being used in restaurants or whatever against their will. So that's another issue. So I guess it's more of the domestic in the sense of school choice, trafficking, obviously economics. Yesterday, I got to hear a congresswoman from California speak, and she was Korean. She's first in her generation to become a politician. And one of the questions that I didn't get to ask her, but I wanted to ask, and maybe you guys could help me with this too. So all this money that's being spent, trillions of dollars, they're talking about this infrastructure bill, that's another, 1.5, and then they got another one on top of that that may be 3.5. So when money changes hands, what happens to that? When 2022 and Republicans take over, what happens to all that money? Is it earmarked? Can earmarks be changed? I mean, the decisions that we're making now, how are they going to look next year or the year after? And I think on the economic sense, for our state, that may be something to really look at. How's that money going to be funneled? Where's it going to? Is it going to school choice? Is it going to lobbyists? Is it going to unions? I think that's going to be a monster, a beast for any party to take over. So all this money that's being spent, where is it going? So that's something else that I'd like to look at. That's not my bailiwicks. I'm not a budget person at all. But it's still something that I think that I could learn and I would be able to work across the board with where this money is flowing, because money is power.
So legislatively, what do you think you could do for Assembly 23, especially Boulder City?
You know, Boulder City is unique. It's a beautiful little small town, charming town that's tucked away in southern Nevada. Bed and breakfast town or whatever. And it's almost like we're in a bubble. But we're human there as well, and things do go on there. I think for my constituents, the best thing I could do is listen, work with the Boulder City Chamber, Boulder City Council. You know, just because you're at a state level, I don't think there should be a big divide there. We should all be working together. Find out what their needs are that I could maybe bring to the state level and make law, or at least bring it to the table. We are in a little bubble. It's a beautiful place to live.
If it ever gets out of committee.
If it ever gets out of committee. And in 2022, I think we will go red. I think the state will go red. Yeah. And I know that's a tall order, but just the way things are going, people need a change. And I know that's been said through every political sphere that there is. We're going to bring change. We're going to bring change. Every party does. But we really are in a crucial time where we are fighting for the soul of our country and the soul of our people. So I think even though that Boulder City is in a little bubble, maybe we could be the little city that emulates that the rest of the world would want to emulate.
Sometimes some people don't want to bring you your change.
Yeah, that's okay too. That's their choice.
I was at the restaurant the other day. The thing cost $17. I gave them a 20. I'm sitting there waiting for my $3 change. It never came.
That's
She
your
just kept it.
That's your tip.
It upset me because I wanted to give it.
Exactly. I don't know what that was about, but you're
Take
right.
it.
Some people don't want change. People like things just the way it is. But I think in this climate, everybody's looking and wondering what in the world's going on.
So, I
And
guess
I want to be that advocate for change.
I guess I got kind of a. It's not necessarily a question. It's more of a philosophy. So, I've been listening to everything that you said, and there's so many things that I agree with. One, I really like how you said, well, we were poor. We didn't know we were poor. We had everything we needed. And I feel strongly about that because, contrary to popular belief, just because I'm white and look like Opie Taylor doesn't necessarily mean, right? I mean, I grew up poor too, but I never thought I was poor.
Right.
Because I had everything I needed. The main question I have for you, though, is, okay, so you keep saying, or you've said a couple times now, turn the state red. So does that mean you're a Republican?
I am a Republican.
How hard is that on you? No, in all honesty, how hard is that on you as a black woman?
Well, you know.
Because I have friends
Right.
that are Republican, and they will not admit to being Republican because they flat out said that, like, my family would disown me.
Right.
Because it is completely against everything.
Or if you align yourself with the Trump administration, your family would disown you.
Right.
You know, that is some bullshit.
I know, on either side. That's why me personally, and this is a little bit of a rant,
Right.
real quick.
That's okay.
It gets frustrating to me that I don't understand why, like, I get frustrated at some of my white friends that are like these hardcore liberals. And I don't have a problem with all liberals, obviously. But when they start saying their stuff, I'm like, I did not say that liberal whites were the biggest enemy of the United States. Malcolm X did. Maybe you should start reading some of that stuff.
Well, you know, I was an independent for a long time, but I'm going to tell you what I tell my children raising them. Okay, so you got Republican, you got Independent, and you got Democrat. You make a list of those things that you believe in.
Right.
Maybe 10 items. And you pick that guy that goes with most of your list.
Yeah.
Whether it's R, I, or D, which we need to rid all of them, but whether it's Republican, Independent, or Democrat, that's where you go. If your house is on fire, I don't think you care what bucket, as long as there's water in it.
Right.
Seriously. And we've gotten to a point where we can't discuss anything.
I know. Yeah.
That's the beginning of the end, really. If you can't come and reason together, we got problems. The United States has always been a competitive nation. Your guy wins for you, my guy wins for you, and we go to the baseball game and we have beer or whatever.
Right.
You know, but at the end of the day, you're family. You're American.
Right.
And maybe we do need something like an Afghan or a good hurricane to come in to bring people back together. I don't know what it takes. But for my little sphere of life in Boulder City, that is what I do. I reach across the aisle to whoever it is or across the table every Tuesday from 9 to 10 and come, let us reason together. Let us talk. Let us discuss.
Right.
You know, just because I'm a RI, I went to a fundraiser, or it wasn't a fundraiser, it was just like a networking thing. And I was handing out my cards and he goes, "Oh, did you vote for Trump?" And I go, "Well," and he goes, "Oh, you did. I'm done." And he walked away. And it's like, okay, you don't know anything about me.
Right.
Just because I voted for somebody. Did you ask me who I voted for last time? Maybe I voted for Obama. Would you be fine then?
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, I grew up in a family, pretty much all of us were poor, but we were very close-knit.
Right.
And we're not the type of family where we haven't talked to somebody in 20 years. We never like that. We argue, but we come back and we play poker.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
It's like pretty much everybody in my family is Democrat, but they love me. They are backing me,
Right.
sending me money.
You know, and people don't realize the history of the two parties.
Oh,
They don't realize that the Democratic Party is who formed the Ku Klux Klan to keep black Republicans from voting
Yes.
and from being involved
Yes.
politically. And they don't know their history, that the Republican Party was a white woman who started the NAACP.
NAACP.
I mean, if they did a little bit of history, they would realize that it was a Republican president that ended slavery, right?
Absolutely.
I mean, people don't pay attention to that. You know what? I call them ignorant.
Well, that's one of the things I always say.
Okay, Burke.
Pull the strings on any situation to find out that there's two sides to every story.
Yeah, I think this is why for other reasons too, but this is why I always respected Ronald Reagan so much, even though when he left office, I think it was 12. But still, I mean, some of his philosophies, and like he used to get so much backlash from his colleagues about, hey, how are you and Tip O'Neill, who was the Speaker of the House at the time, a liberal Democrat, how are you guys such good friends? And he goes, okay, so here's the thing. From 9 to 5?
Right.
Oh, no, from 9 to 5, we're fighting. Because it's my job to fight him and vice versa. But after 5 o'clock, we'll go have a drink. And he also said that somebody who agrees with you on 80% of the issues, but disagrees with you on 20% of the issues, that's a friend, not a foe.
Right, exactly.
So we've pigeonholed ourselves now in this country to where, because you may disagree with me on 20% of the issues, now I can't talk to you.
Yeah, and it's really sad, because what are we teaching our children?
Are we human first, though?
We are. I think if you cut anybody, they bleed red.
Yeah.
Seriously. But what are we teaching our children? That's the main thing. You asked me why I was running. One of the things I'm running for, too, is to leave a legacy. To leave a legacy for my granddaughter, to leave a legacy for all the girls that I talked about making choices, that they could take the step to the point where they know there's no door closed for them. But at the point that we're getting now, everybody's on one side or the other. And that's not the way it should be. That's not America. Yeah. So, I think at every level, if we just try our best in our sphere of life at this table to agree and to show the world that we can agree, that's a plus. I walk every Thursday. We walk in my town. We do a prayer walk around Boulder City. And my partner, she's white Democrat. And we just laugh. And we go, what are they talking about? The average people in the town get along. Right. I don't know what they're doing up in Washington, D.C. or Capitol Hill, whatever, but the average person, like I said, if your house is on fire, you just want them to bring that water bucket to help you put that fire out.
I'm not asking the firefighter if they're a Republican or Democrat.
Absolutely.
I care less. Just put the fire out.
It's like Nathan Atkins, who's running for mayor of North Las Vegas.
Is that the gentleman who he looks like a bodybuilder?
Yeah, he said, excuse me, garbage doesn't care about your political party. That's right. Just needs to be picked up.
Yeah. Yes, absolutely. And I think the average person thinks like that. I think the news media, whether it's left or right, they're spinning things. And if you sit there and watch that the whole time, you'll believe one thing or another.
Propaganda makes people go crazy. So,
absolutely.
And they make them go radical. They make them disown family members, which is, it's a sign of radicalism.
Yes.
It's a sign of insecurity.
Yes.
And it's just plain old, just damn immature.
Right. When you get down.
You haven't grown. You have not grown. And that's a big problem. Because I got friends on all four sides. Right. Meaning libertarian, independent American, Republican, Democrat, And then I got friends that are no party affiliation at all. Right. And I get along. I mean, we might disagree on some political stuff, but you know what? And that's what America is all about. Right. Is people coming to the table and talking about their issues, and they might disagree on, but yet we're all American
And that's a
and
good
we
thing.
all compromise. But sometimes family members are just stupid. Plain, old, dumb, stupid people. You know who you are.
But that, people who know you know you. People
Right.
who know me know me.
Right.
Okay, I may wear the R, the I, or the D, but they know me.
Right.
And if they go against what I believe in, then shame on them, because they know I am going to do the right thing as a Republican. If I was a Democrat, I'm going to do the right thing as a Democrat. But I think we've gotten to the point where it's so polarized, the esprit de corps, a military term, is gone. There's no camaraderie among Americans anymore. But I shouldn't say that, because again, I think at the lower level, Boulder City and other little towns like Boulder City, people are still playing poker at the table and they're R-I-N-D. It's across the sphere of life that you find a common ground in your neighbor. It's just the way it is. My neighbors, Boulder City is 83% white and 3.8% black. I think I'm the only black homeowner in Boulder City. There may be one or two more, but I don't know them personally. What difference does that make?
Yeah.
I live there. That's my home. That's my town. I'm not going to run or cut and run because there's more people that look a different color than me. No, we all bleed the same blood. And actually, I have something to add to the city of Boulder City, being black, being...
No, exactly, because even though I think the whole diversity push in different areas has went a little too far.
Oh, absolutely.
I mean, more to the point where it's like the government kind of forcing it on us. But I think anytime you can get, that's one of the reasons why I appreciate the fact that I was involved in athletics in high school and in college, is because I got exposed to so many different races and cultures.
Absolutely.
And so I got to see the world through their eyes.
Right, yes.
And that's an experience that a lot of people don't get.
And that's what I got growing up in New York. It's a melting pot.
Right.
You have your sections of town, Chinatown,
Right.
Harlem, you have all that.
Little Italy.
Yeah, but when you go to Yankee Stadium, everybody's in Yankee Stadium.
I'm a Mets fan myself.
So Miss Ashurst, you're also an author. And you wrote this book, You're in the Army Now. I'm a little confused because you told me that you went into the Air Force.
Yes.
85 pounds soaking wet. So what are you, in the Army? Or
Air Force, of course.
Air Force. Why does it say I'm in the Air Force now?
You're in the Army now. It's just a play on words, basically. But that book itself, I took a group of girls down to Hawaii. We were doing purity classes down there. And we stayed on Ford Island, and the troops were running by. And they go, Miss Denise, what are they doing? And this one guy ran out in the middle of the street, and there was a whole line of troops. I go,
Right.
he is the front guard, and the guy in the back is the rear road guard, and I was the rear road guard. And I said, did you know in the Bible that it says God goes before us and he's in back of us? He's our guiding force on all sides. And so they started asking me, well, what does this mean? What does that mean? And I was taking every principle that's in the military and lining it up with the Bible. So that book literally is about my life as Air Force and my life as a Christian and how there is no difference.
So
Everything
it says
lines up.
Comparison of my military life and my life as a Christian. Are you a conscientious objector?
No,
Okay. Just needed to know.
I am not.
So where could people find this book if they wanted to?
Yeah, I was going to say, I definitely want to.
Yeah, so you go to prideandpurity.com and you could order that book. But that's a side note book that I wrote. I actually have 4 other books that are pertaining to purity and making right choices. And even though I work with girls, the principle of the words that I write are for men and women of making right choices.
Right,
And even our country right now, we're at a crossroad. Choose this way evil, this way good. And so those choices even come down to our country, the world for that matter. Which way are we going to go?
Right.
So while I don't push my belief on anyone, the road to a better life is through Christ. And that's what that book actually talks about, of how everything in the Bible is everything that we live.
Okay.
There's no difference other than the evil. But the Bible talks a lot about evil
Well,
as well.
We want to thank you for coming on the show. Did we miss anything? Something you want?
No, I think I touched on
cover
everything. I
everything?
just want to thank you guys for what you do, because we talked about bringing people around the table. I don't know what your political persuasion is. I hope you vote for me. And if you're not in my district,
political
pray for me.
persuasion is a human being that's knowledgeable and willing to take that stand and to better society,
Yes.
no matter what political affiliation, gender, race, religion, that they come from, or financial background.
Right.
So that's who I set my mind to vote for, one that's going to better society.
There you go. Yeah.
No matter what their political affiliation is.
Well,
the ones that go R and D or IAP, libs,
All the way down.
They're either A, they're radical, right, or B, uneducated on the candidates running for office. So
That's
it's
a good
safer
point,
for them just to go right down the line, because it's safer for them.
Right.
Or they got some people that just vote for women, or some people that just vote for men, So that's how it goes. But Miss Ashurst, Denise Elizabeth Ashurst, could you look into the camera and tell folks why they should vote for you for Nevada Assembly District 23 come June?
And I like to make the point that June 14th is the primaries, and that is my goal, to get as many people out in the primaries as possible. I am a candidate who wants the best for my constituents, meaning those primarily in Assembly 23, but not only Assembly 23. What we do in Boulder City will emulate what the world, what the country would do as well. So some of you who are looking at this program may not be able to vote for me, but I ask for your prayers, because I am one who, even though I'm under the R, so to speak, my heart is for everyone, especially our youth, especially for school choice. So if you're looking for someone to make a difference in your community, especially in Assembly 23, I am your candidate. If you have any questions, please give me a call. Go to my website, which is Elect Denise for NevadaStateAssembly.com. Elect Denise for NevadaStateAssembly.com, and leave me a note. Come down to the company store in Boulder City. I'm there Tuesday mornings from 9 to 10. I love to sit down and talk with you about any and every issue. I appreciate your time. I appreciate you guys' time here. I appreciate what you do, and God bless you. And if you need anything, let me know.
Thank you. Folks, that's Denise Ashurst. She's Assembly District candidate for number 23. This is Steve Sampson, Jim Jones for Veterans in Politics. Until next time.